Ya me mandarás una. Buenas tardes.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Ramón Areces Foundation. On its behalf, I want to thank you for being here and participating at this event. My name is Manuel Aguilar. I'm a member of the Scientific Committee of the Ramón Areces Foundation and a member of the Royal Academy of Sciences. My speciality is experimental high-energy physics or elementary particle physics, and I'm currently emeritus researcher at the THEAMAD. As many of you know, the Areces Foundation has a long and consolidated trajectory in the promotion of projects and activities that have to do with science and technology. The Areces Foundation carries out these activities in a framework of collaboration with other institutions and organizations with similar interests, like, for instance, the Royal Academy of Sciences, the Royal Spanish Society of Physics, the Royal Spanish Society of Chemistry and Mathematics, universities, and centers of research, as well as other foundations in Spain and all over the world. The lecture this evening is a good example of what I've just said, and it is the result of the collaboration of the Areces Foundation with the Royal Academy of Sciences and the Complutense University of Madrid. Before I pass the floor to Professor Nazario Martín, who will summarize the multiple scientific contributions of Professor Ben Feringa, I want to point out that among the most important events of the Foundation are the lectures that have to do with Nobel Prizes for Physics and Chemistry. In recent years, regarding chemistry, we've had the privilege of hearing Nobel Prizes: Jean-Marie Lehn, 1987, Jean-Pierre Sauvage, 2016, Richard Henderson, 2017, Joachim Frank, 2017, Stanley Whittingham, 2019, David Macmillan, 2021, and today we receive the 2016 Nobel Prize for Chemistry, Ben Feringa, who shared the award with Stoddard and Jean-Pierre Sauvage for the design and the synthesis of molecular machines. On behalf of the Ramón Areces Foundation, I want to congratulate Professor Feringa for having received the title honoris causa honorary degree at the Complutense University of Madrid, and he's also been appointed member of the Royal Academy of Sciences of Spain as a foreign member. Thank you very much for accepting all this. And now I pass the floor to Professor Martín. Thank the Foundation, the Ramón Areces Foundation. Thank you for being here and hoping that you enjoy this fascinating lecture. Thank you very much.
Muy buenas tardes.
Good evening. Before I've been introduced, my name is Nazario Martín from the Complutense University of Madrid, the Faculty of Chemistry. My dean is here at the Complutense University, and I'm assistant director of the Nanoscience Institution at Canto Blanco in Madrid. Before I introduce Professor Feringa, allow me to thank the Ramón Areces Foundation and Professor Manuel Aguilar for their support and their determination to make this lecture today possible. I'm going to do a quick, brief introduction of the many merits of the lecturer we have with us today. Professor Ben Feringa was born in a little village, Compascum, in the Netherlands in 1951, where his family had a farm, and he studied at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, where he took his PhD doctorate in 1978. After a few years of working in the Shell oil company, the Biosciences Centre, not just in Holland, but in the UK too, for 6 years, he returned after 1984 to the University of Groningen, where since 2004 he is professor at that university, with Jacobus Malthoff, chair for molecular sciences. That's his chair, Jacobus Malthoff, chair. He is a pioneer in the design and synthesis of molecules that can work as nano machines. And these nano machines were known in biological systems, but it was a true challenge to build them and artificially. And in this regard, Professor Feringa showed that this is possible by synthesizing through conventional chemical synthesis, by selectively connecting, almost artistically, I would say, atoms and molecular fragments. The work of Professor Feringa in the development of unidirectional molecular engines, which have the size of 1/1,000,000 of 1 millimeter, is considered the key work for the advance of nanoscience and molecular science. He's shown that these molecular machines can work while they're connected to a surface, and that their movement can even displace macroscopic objects. He will show us with some pictures that are really extraordinary. He also designed a nanocar, that is a nanometric compound that contains 4 molecular engines which act as wheels and that can move on a surface under external stimulus or stimulation. His group researches into synthetic and physical organic chemistry with the aim of exploiting the potential of synthetic chemistry to create new structures and functions. A significant part of this research has to do with dynamic molecular systems, and is focused on molecular nanoscience, new materials, sensitive materials, and what is called photopharmacy. And it explores the biohybrid mechanisms, self-assemblage, and molecular engines. And in addition to that, his research covers the development and application within what we might call biological chemistry of new selective synthesis mechanisms and asymmetric catalysis. His activity is one of the main fields of work that he's been involved in, and he, over the years, has researched into fundamental areas of stereochemistry, including corruptic phenomena, chiral amplification, and chirality. The origins of chirality are interrelated with the origins of life, I have to say. Among his distinctions, he was appointed honorary foreign member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and he's also a member and current vice president of the Academy of Sciences of the Netherlands. 2008, he was appointed professor at the Academy and received the title of Knight from the Queen of Holland. And the research of Professor Feringa has been recognized with different awards, and I will select just a few of them. And I am going to not give you the dates to make it briefer, but he has the European Award for Sciences, the Spinoza Prize, the Pelloff Gold Medal, the Paracelsus Medal, the Fidelity Medal, the Royal Society of Chemistry Medal, the Humboldt Award, the Grand Prix Scientifique Chino del Duca from the French Academy, the Marie Curie Medal, the Gold Medal of Nagoya, And finally, Professor Feringa was given the Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 2016 for the design and synthesis of molecular machines. And in view of his many scientific merits, I have the honor of introducing Professor Ben Feringa to this audience, spectacular audience and auditorium at the Ramón Areces Foundation.
Please, Ben, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very, very much for all the kind words, for the great honor and pleasure to be here, to speak here at these facilities of the Ramón Areces Foundation, and that you make this possible here, that I can be here today. I have many friends and collaborators in Spain. Over the years we exchanged students, we had many publications together. But this is a very special day for me. Yesterday the honor at the Complutense University, today I was at the Academy, and now I'm here at this very famous foundation, which is so important for supporting science in your country. I'm greatly honored. Thank you so much. So what I will do is, I will talk a little bit about my journey through the field of molecular nanoscience, the joy of discovery, because it's indeed a joy to discover, to make discoveries together with your students, your young talents, the young researchers that we educate for their future. And I will tell you something about my personal experience, but of course also about the highlights, some of the highlights of the discoveries that we made. But I often get the question, ladies and gentlemen, why do we need molecular machines? Why do we need molecular motors? This question was also asked to the Wright brothers, a similar question. Why does mankind need to fly? If we want to fly, God would have given us wings. Nobody would have predicted more than 100 years ago that we would build in Europe now an Airbus, or in America a Boeing, that can carry 400 people across the ocean, 1,000 kilometers an hour. We admire the flying pigeon, It's absolutely beautiful. But try to carry 400 people from here to New York, 1,000 kilometers an hour with a pigeon. Not possible, You will fail. This is the most fantastic, one of the most fantastic pieces of engineering, where different sciences come together, Chemistry, physics, mathematics, engineering, of course, and all these different disciplines to make it possible to build such an aircraft. It's absolutely fantastic. But we should also be very humble, because my friends from biology tell me that we cannot build a pigeon. Despite all the advances in biology and in the sciences, we cannot build a single cell of the pigeon. We cannot build even one of the machineries of a pigeon. So, it's difficult to predict where fundamental science goes. And so, I suppose you all have a smartphone. I ask it again, is there somebody, I see already a smartphone, yeah, great. Is there anybody who has not a smartphone? Nobody, You have not a smartphone. Or you will get one soon, ask your mother. What fundamental scientific discoveries and questions, were needed. Don't forget, it's only 17 years there, We have only 17 years, these phones. It started in the late 40s, early 50s of the past century, where the physics discovered the first transistor, the chemists make the first liquid crystal materials, and then the batteries, the engineers, the computer scientists, etc. In the early 50s, IBM was building the first computer, which was the size of half this room and could do way less than your smartphone. And nobody, of course, had thought that we would 50 years later would build a smartphone. The word did not exist. in the early 50s of the past century. It took all these disciplines, and we should not forget this man, John Goodenough and his colleagues, who discovered the lithium battery in the 80s, only 40 years ago. Otherwise, we would not have electric cars now. We would not have smartphones. And we all agree that these devices, coming from fundamental science, it has completely changed our world, the way we communicate, etc., with each other. So the path to the future, an adventure in the unknown, it starts with fundamental science. And the joy of discovery means challenges. Challenges for our young students, challenges for our scientists, dreams for our young talents, but opportunities for society and industry. But the most important, ladies and gentlemen, is the question mark. Which question are we going to ask to Mother Nature? And of course, serendipity plays a crucial role. We should not forget that. Accidental discoveries, mistakes. Please allow us at universities also to make some mistakes when we do research, because we try to discover something new, and that can be completely unexpected. And often, it leads to really important discoveries. Look, these two ladies shared a Nobel Prize in chemistry in 2020 for CRISPR-Cas. That is the technique that you can modify DNA. You can cut a piece out of DNA, modify it, etc. And look what she said. As so often in science, the discovery of these genetic scissors was unexpected. It was serendipity, discovery, but it completely changed. Everybody is using it now. Within 10 years, it exploded in the field of biology, chemical biology, biochemistry, and medicine. So indeed, the path to the future in this beautiful garden, the paradise of science and knowledge, is a path that we often goes with uncertainty. And often we get completely lost, and then we get into questions there, you can see, that we have not even thought about to ask. And that might be the most beautiful questions, which give very unexpected answers. For me, I'm a scientist I'm a chemist, and we build molecules and materials, and I enjoy the beauty of the molecular world. This can be molecules simply because we like to design beautiful molecules. You can ask me later, what is a beautiful molecule? Or we design molecules and materials to test a theory, or for specific functions, a new drug, or whatever. So we have to go far beyond our horizon to the future, to think bold, to think creative. So where was my horizon? This was my horizon when I was a kid. I lived on a farm, it was mentioned, in a tiny village, and this was the German border, and there were moors, and it was where my father grew potatoes. And when you grow up as a small kid, with 9 brothers and sisters, and a huge family, in such a remote area, there is a lot to discover. And I tell you, crossing borders, when I was a small kid, I already illegally crossed the border, because at that time, we had still borders in Europe. Now we have borders again. But at that time, and I was crossing this border, which was into Germany, but it was an adventure because there was wilderness. There was a lot to discover. And I think this actually is where it started, where my career started, this adventure in the unknown. I felt often like this small boy that gets excited. This is the discovery of phosphorus, to look. I was reading books about discoverers, adventurers, Columbus, all these things. That was absolutely fascinating. And then I went to, you see on the farm, this is, by the way, my brothers and sisters. I'm the second oldest, actually. And these were my parents. And I was asking my father, how is it that these potatoes have white flowers, and why do they have this beautiful, red flower? And why does from this tiny seed grows this beautiful crop, like a sunflower or this corn, And my father he was very smart, I must say, but he had not an answer either to all these questions. But we had many, many discussions, and they stimulated us a lot. And I think this makes a big difference, So then I went to high school, and there I got confronted with chemistry and physics and mathematics and biology, and this was a new world for me, the natural sciences. And I loved it. With our chemistry teacher here, this is my chemistry teacher, We did experiments in the classroom, you know, and for chemistry you do a lot of experiments, and I loved that. And then I went to the university. This was my professor. He was American, and he stimulated us a lot. And this is the university building, by the way, in Groningen. And so Winberg gave me a topic which was absolutely impossible when I was a master's student. It was really tough. But he told me, I never forget, I was in his room for 10 minutes, and then I was convinced I should do it. He said, Ben, you can do it. Challenging young people. You can do it. We will make the Americans jealous. This was my first molecule. And I will remember that I came to his room and I said, I made this molecule. And he said, by the way, this was an absolutely useless molecule. But he said to me, nobody ever in the world made this molecule. Not even in America. So I was so proud, you know, it was my molecule. I did it. So that gave me to build my future in chemistry. But I want to give credit to our teachers, because you should not forget, for me it was extremely important, the teachers. And I'm sure everybody here remembers, the elder people, one teacher that made the difference in her or his life. A stimulating teacher. So, shaping the future with our young talents, that's what we do at our institutes, our universities, in the schools, etc. So after my university PhD, I went to work for Shell in the main research center in Shell in Amsterdam, and then in the Shell Bioscience Center in England. And I must say, coming out of the comfort zone of the university, working for such a big multinational, is a great experience, because you learn a lot how society, but in particular how industry, how business operates, etc. But I wanted to go back to the university to teach at the university and to do my own research. So in the art of building small, I work together with my students in the laboratory doing chemical synthesis, and this is what we typically do, building new molecules, new materials. And I developed a passion for molecules, and my drive was to design my own molecular world. So this is what we do, building molecules and materials in the laboratory. And so, okay, I show this picture again. You have seen it before. My students found this on the web. Apparently, when I started as a young lecturer after my Shell period to build my own research, this was me with long hair at that time. And they said on Twitter, we chemists are lucky he chose academia and instead becoming a rock star. Now, I cannot play music, ladies and gentlemen, so be happy that I'm not a rock star, because I would have completely failed. But apparently I said at that time, this is now a long time ago, the beauty of chemistry is that I can create my own molecular world. And this was my passion. So we built molecules that you connect things together for people that are now chemists, you know. In the laboratory, we take compounds, we connect them together, we make more complex molecules. This is Taxol. It's a bit like Lego, yeah? Building things, you know, building complex structures. This is a very complex molecule. Taxol, it's an anti-cancer drug. It's used in the hospital to treat, particularly for breast cancer. It's absolutely a potent molecule, but it's extremely difficult to make in the laboratories. So in the laboratory, with our students, we have a universal language. Like in physics or mathematics, you know, we have the language of the molecules in the periodic table. And you realize, when I go to China, I don't speak Chinese, but everybody in China understands that this is a sugar molecule, and that this is the elements that build up everything, what I see here, including your own body, Everything in the university is built of these elements. We have no borders, we go beyond frontiers, we have international cooperation and a passion for discovery. And I want to emphasize these borders, because you know now, I'm strongly advocating going beyond borders, frontiers. And nowadays there's a lot of talk about borders, but we should not forget Louis Pasteur. He said, long time ago, science knows no country, because knowledge belongs to humanity and is the torch which illuminates the world. And I think this is more important than ever, the torch which illuminates the world. So these are the elements, This is Mendeleev, who discovered the periodic table. So now my question, This is the molecular formula of your body. Professor, can you stand up for a second? And look into the public. You saw Professor Martin, eh? Look. This is the formula of this man. Also you. Hydrogen 375 million, oxygen 132 million, some carbon, he likes carbon, there's a lot of carbon. One lonely cobalt. Why is there so much hydrogen and oxygen? Because this is 60% water, plus a few other molecules. 60, don't worry, he looks very handsome, eh? And very good shape, despite all the water. But it's great.
Maybe the atoms for my hair are a little bit...
I don't know. I don't want to get in that discussion. Thank you so much for your help. This is the human body. You see the elements. Now the question to here, are there more elements? Because I would argue the human body is the most complex system we know on the earth, yes? Is there more distinct elements in your body or in your smartphone? Now the answer is there are more distinct elements in your smartphone. So if you purely look at the number of elements, a smartphone is more complex than a human body. Now, I would argue a human body is way more complex. But purely from the number of elements, can you imagine how much elements are needed to build a smartphone? More elements than in your body. So, chemistry is the creating science, it's often called, and there are many challenges. Facing our future, green design, sustainable process, reinventing materials. How are we going to fly in the future? Changing the face of the chemical industry. How are we going to make our drugs, pharmaceuticals, etc.? And I will show you some examples, but there are many fundamental questions and many challenges and perspectives to build our society and industry of the future. So we build tiny molecules like ethylene, 2 carbons and 4 hydrogens, 160 million tons. We build, as I mentioned before, very complex molecules, vitamin B12, 35 tons a year. That's the world production. Why so little? Because you need only microgram quantities to stay healthy, eh? Vitamin B12. Very simple and very complex. So this is what chemists do. They build the drugs, the dyes, the cables, the cars, the components of your car, not in isolation, but together with our colleagues in physics, engineering, material science, etc., etc. But this is everything we see in modern society. And you need all these materials and chemistries, etc. But what you don't see here is anything that moves. And I move, eh? I can talk to you, I can speak, I can see you, I can wave my hand. But this does not move. Your chair does not move. Yeah? The screen does not move. In your body is full of motors and machines. So there are these beautiful rotary motors that make the fuel in your body. There are all these motors that transport things in your cell, millions and millions of motors. The ribosome, which is a fantastic robot that builds the proteins, or most of the proteins in your body. This is one of my favorites, the flagella motor, the bacteria flagella motor. You see, this is what makes the bacteria swim in your guts. It goes forward or backward. It can go clockwise or counterclockwise. Isn't it amazing that Mother Nature invented such a machine? And this is where we started, the switching process in your eye. Optical information, storage, retrieval, etc., that we can see each other. So, there is a distinct difference, ladies and gentlemen, between the nano world and the macro world. I don't know if you have ever been in a car manufacturing plant. I know there are many cars produced in Spain. Go to a car plant sometime and you will see these robots and they build a car. It's absolutely amazing. But this is the world, the hard material, 2 meters in size. Now you go to this robot in your body that makes your proteins. It's the world at the nano scale, 1 billion times smaller, and it's soft material. And it's not so much about getting motion, but it's more about how to control motion. That's the key point that we have to address. So, the miniaturization of machineries, nanotechnology, it was mentioned by Richard Feynman in 1959. There is plenty of room at the bottom. What does he mean? You saw in chip technology, we have gone from top down, all the time, smaller, so we are now with the new latest chips at nanoscale features. Smaller and smaller, more information density. But bottom up means like we do in living nature, building it up with molecules, larger and larger until you have your machines, you have the components of your cell. And it took 50 years before we could make the first machines. And this is Jean-Pierre Sauvage and Fraser Stoddart, Sir Fraser Stoddart, that I had the privilege to go with them to Stockholm to get this medal. So, just to bring everybody on track, nanotechnology, 1 nanometer is 1 billion of a meter. And you see here one hair. Can you see it, madam? One hair, yeah? You know the cross-section of a human hair is 80,000 nanometer, yeah? Yes, size matters, and you know that. When you go to the beach, like in the north of Holland, we have sandy beaches, yeah? Of course, it rains a lot. But when you have sandy beaches, it's fantastic. You drop there. But when you go to some beaches in Spain where there are pebbles, you are careful, because it's the same material, hard and soft. So in nanotechnology, you can buy nano products, yeah? You can buy these nanoparticles in sunscreens. They are nanosensitive. They are fantastic. They feel so good. But they are also a bit expensive, Good feeling. Pretty expensive. You know these LED screens with the nano, you see the quantum dots? They are absolutely gorgeous. You see, you get, I mean, I don't want to mention any particular football team, but when you see Atletico or Real Madrid on such a screen, it looks way better, I tell you, yeah? Because there are these high-definition TV screens based on nanotechnology. So, you might ask, how can you see molecules and atoms at the nanoscale? Because you cannot use a microscope. Microscopes, micro, is 1,000 times too big. But we have these nanoscopes. So these are like a needle that ends, yeah, in one atom. And then you can write or feel the atoms. Yeah? And you can write, look, on one cross-section of your hair, yeah, you can write 250 million letters. So a lot of the books here of the foundation, you can write on my hair, one hair, yeah? This is the power of nanotechnology. This is the size we are talking about. So, let me talk about switches. So we start with switches, 0, you all know what a switch is, You switch on your car, you switch on the light, your smartphone, 0, 1. And we started with the switch in the eye, as I mentioned before. The fact that I can see this lady, and she can see me, is because there are millions and millions of these switches in the eye. And they switch back and forth, signal goes to the brain. This is how we can see. You see, this is a band molecule, this is a linear molecule. It's just to change its shape. And that is because with the light, you excite the molecule, a bond is cleaved, a chemical bond, it rotates, yeah? It goes from this band structure to a more linear structure. And this is the 0-1 process. But it's also crucial that it goes back, because otherwise I would see you only one time, and then it would be finished. So, we built artificial switches, and you see here an example, and you can forget the chemical structure, but you can use light to switch 2 states. And we built them chiral, left-handed and right-handed. Left-handed minus, right-handed plus. And that is because when we want to find out if we are in this state or this state, it helps a lot if we know if we have a left-handed or right-handed molecule. That was our means to detect if we have a 0 and a 1. And we did information storage in this way, writing 0s and 1s, yeah, with molecules. And you know, I think you all know still what a compact disc is. I recently asked my students, and half of the students had no idea what a compact disc was, because this is old-fashioned technology. We, together with the Philips company, we were making plastic and writing 0s and 1s. And you know, the storage capacity of one compact disc is this megabytes. You can play 240 years of music continuously with one compact disc. So that means your grandparents and grandchildren, 6 generations, can constantly play music with one CD. Of course, this is not true. This is the potential of nanotechnology, yeah? This is sometimes what you read in the newspapers and so. But of course, you to write a 0 and a 1, they should be separated, or we cannot detect when they are very close together. So we cannot reach this high density yet. This is a serious fundamental problem. We can do 0 and 1, but then one molecule is here in the building, and the other molecule is somewhere out there on the street, yeah, and then we can detect 0 and 1. But to make it highly dense, yeah, we still need a lot of work to be done. Okay, let me show you something where we are very excited about, and we put a lot of effort recently, and that is making smart drugs, photopharmacology, smart pharmaceuticals. If you go to the doctor and you get a pill, you want to have it doing something. Otherwise, you don't like your doctor. Eh? It should be active. But we want to have it inactive and activate with a flash of light, with a switch, just like in your eye. This is high precision therapeutic action. Imagine you get a pill or a drug, it doesn't do anything. As soon as you hit here with a lamp or a laser or whatever, you activate it on the spot. And why do we want to do that? Off, on, with high precision, new medicines. We work together with the medical people, with the people in the hospital, with the biologists, etc., to make this possible. We work on two important problems. One is bacterial resistance. The World Health Organization said this is one of humanity's ticking time bombs because of the bacterial resistance. We all see that in the newspapers. And the other is cancer treatment, chemotherapy. We all know the nasty side effects of chemotherapy. Eh? You get all kinds of nasty effects. So wouldn't it be a dream if you have a tiny tumors, I don't hope you get that, but if you have these tiny tumors that a surgeon cannot remove, yeah, you image them, you know where they are, but they are so tiny, and then you take a laser and you write, yeah, the activity of your chemotherapeutic agent. You just activate it there where it's needed, and you don't get all the other side effects in your body. That's a dream still. So we do fundamental research. We work on antibiotics. You see a Cipro, which is an antibiotic that's used in the hospital. We put in a switch. We switch on and off with light. So this is left is the off state, right is the on state. And we can switch on the antibacterial effect. So you see here bacteria growing. And my students grow bacteria where they irradiate here with light, and here they cover it, and they don't irradiate. Where they don't irradiate, yeah, the bacteria grow normal, and where they irradiate, the bacteria are dead. This is a yin-yang figure that my students made with bacterial cells. Why do we want to do that? Because you want to activate your antibiotic, and then after a few hours, when it has done its job, precisely where it's needed, where there is an infection in your body, it's off again, and you don't build up resistance, and you don't get problems with the bacteria in your guts. That's the idea. We use it also for precision chemotherapy. Again, we can switch on and off compounds that are very important for chemotherapy to avoid side effects in chemotherapy. Again, this is very early days, very fundamental science. But taking advantage of a light switch to activate, just with a flash of light, with high precision, chemotherapy. And recently, yeah, we went to the cells. So make sure, and this is fundamental research, this is not in the clinic yet. It takes a long journey to get it towards application, to get approval that you can use it in patients in the clinic. But going to the cell, you know the cell has a beautiful cell membrane around the cell to protect the cell. It's like a city wall. And so we put a switch in a protein that we got from a spider, actually. It's from Mother Nature. And we build in a light switch, and then we can switch with light. It forms a hole in the cell membrane, a pore, a hole. So is this a stepping stone to molecular surgery? What we did is we used it to drill a hole in a cancer cell. Can you imagine? We take it from Mother Nature, the protein, yeah? Then we use a light switch. The light switch makes it possible that it assembles to form a hole, and the cell bursts open and dies. Or you can use it to deliver a drug to the cell. So this is where we are at the moment, targeting cells with high precision, yeah, literally drilling a hole in the cell membrane. And yeah, this brings me to these fingers here. You might ask, what is this? Of course, it's crucial to get light in your body. And it should not be UV light, because when you go to the beach, you put on sunscreen, because UV light can be dangerous. But you need red light, because red light goes straight through your fingers, yeah, goes deep in the body, and is innocent. So when you want to go to the clinic, to patients, whatever, to tissue or to animals, you need red light. And this is the hand, the fingers of my PhD student who made the first antibiotic that we could switch with red light and that we could use now in animal studies. And there was a photographer from the United States that came to Cambridge and to several places, and he came also to our lab because he had read this, and he actually made this beautiful photo of the hand of my PhD student, yeah, and it was in an exhibition. This was in Groningen, but it was in many exhibitions around Europe. So when you are a student and you make such a discovery, you not only can get a nice publication in a scientific journal, but you might also end up in an exposition in the museum. So indeed, science and art sometimes come very close together. So indeed, facing our future, yeah, I show you a little bit how we can improve health and medicine, hopefully in the future, and go to a bio-nano future. So this is early days, but in the future you will see this kind of applications into, yeah, the bio-nano world and into medicines to improve health. Now let me go to molecular motors then in the second part of my talk. Because a switch, ladies and gentlemen, is not a motor. You switch back and forth, but a motor needs continuous operation, like the motor in your car. And I mentioned before there are many motors, billions of motors in your body. And they push a system out of equilibrium to make things moving, like these animals on the beach. Okay, I still have to give this message. On television, I see sometimes in these lifestyle programs, be in equilibrium with yourself. I see this also in magazines, fancy magazines. Be in equilibrium. Please don't. Because if you are in equilibrium, you are dead, biologically. These motors, machines, be in harmony or in balance, that's fine with your life. But don't be in equilibrium. These tiny machines push you out of equilibrium all the time. We are out of equilibrium, otherwise we would not be alive. So, this is the most fantastic motor that I know. This is the ATPase rotary motor in your body. There are billions and billions of these motors. You see it rotating, it spins. Yeah, things go in, things go out. I don't know if you have ever realized, I was flabbergasted when I heard this from my biology colleagues. They told me that these tiny machines, nano machines, they make half your body weight of ATP, that's the fuel in your body, every 24 hours. Now, I had in the past days fantastic Spanish food. I cannot deny, it was absolutely gorgeous. Yeah? I have to thank my host, Professor Nazario Martin, for this. Fantastic. But I don't eat half my body weight even if the Spanish food is so good, I don't eat half my body weight every day. Come on. These tiny machines, yeah, make half your body weight of fuel every day. But what do? They recycle everything. So what is one of the most pressing problems we are facing? Recycling our materials, recycling our plastics. Come on, guys, we are not smart enough. Your body recycles half your body weight every day. We have to learn how to do that, and we will do it. This is why we do discoveries. So what is the fundamental problem? The fundamental problem is, of course, how to control rotary motion in the nano world and how to control left and right. If you don't have petrol in your car or your battery in your electric car is empty, you will not get anywhere. We fuel it with light. It's powered by light. And to control left and right. I mean, I'm standing here with my car, and there's equal probability going to this direction and that direction, I will not get anywhere either. You either have to go forward or backward, clockwise or counterclockwise. So how do we solve that problem? We use chirality. And for all those no gammas here, chirality is absolutely fantastic. This is the DNA, the right-handed helix of DNA, and it was called by nature the Mona Lisa of modern science. And I think we all agree on that. The DNA in your body is right-handed. That's where all the information is. And the amino acids, the proteins in your body, are left-handed. Now, so it is about left or right. We have to distinguish left or right, clockwise or counterclockwise. I grew up on a farm, and I think we all struggle sometimes with left and right. I mean, we sometimes make a mistake, that we have the wrong shoe or so. But I tell you, when as a small boy on the farm, we had these wooden shoes in Holland. Yeah, they are hard. And when you step in the wrong wooden shoe, it does so much pain that you never make a mistake again. And you know for the rest of your life the difference between right and left. So this is how I learned it. And so we built this tiny machine. This is the rotary motor we built. You see it rotates, around this axle. Now the experts among you might ask, how is it possible? Because I see two bonds in the middle. You cannot rotate around two bonds. But of course, like in your eye, the energy from the light excites the molecule. One bond is broken, it rotates, and that powers the whole system. The size is 1 nanometer, and it rotates either clockwise or counterclockwise. Because if we make this form, it rotates clockwise. If we make this one, it rotates counterclockwise. This is the first and smallest molecular motor that has ever been built in the world. Now, you see it rotates in 4 steps, And this is how it goes, continuously rotating, like the ATPase rotary motor, and it's powered by light. Now, recently, and this is very recent, I wanted to show you this, because my students make now more complex machines. You see here, the central axle, it rotates, and then this part rotates around. And how did we design this? My students looked at the moon. And you might say, are these students in Groningen so romantic that they look at the moon all the time? Maybe, I don't know what they do in the evening. But there is something special with the moon. Because you all know, you see the women or the man on the moon only from one side. That is called synchronized rotary motion, the moon around the earth. And we thought if we want to make complex machinery, we should build something that mimics this. So you see here this movement, and you see it rotates around, and it always we see the same face, like the moon around the earth. And this is our stepping stone. This was tough to make it and to prove it, but this is a stepping stone to more complex machines. So what I want to share with you in my final part of my talk, a little bit about what can you do with these motors. No, let me first answer the question, how fast was this motor, this rotary motor? Now I tell you, the first motor we made was spinning once an hour. Now you cannot build a car, you cannot do much with it. But we now have motors that rotate 10 million times per second, and everything in between. So we can fine-tune precisely the speed, up to 10 million rotations per second. What we did is, we put these tiny motors, just a tiny amount, 1 weight%, in liquid crystals. And you all know what a liquid crystal is, because I realize you all, except this lady, you all have a smartphone. And in your smartphone, the display, that is liquid crystal display material. You know that's soft material. If you push the glass plate of your smartphone, there's soft material behind it. Don't push too hard, because then you destroy your smartphone. The soft material is these rod-like molecules. It's in the TV screens, it's everywhere. But when you put something that is either right-handed or left-handed, like our motor, you can make a helix. And this is how you get a color pixel. This is how you generate color in your smartphone. If you have a long helix, the reflection of the light, you get red light. If it's a short helix, you get blue light. This is how you make color pixels in your smartphone, pictures. expanding, contracting. And this is what we did with our motor. You see, we take a motor, we put light, and we can make every color within 1 minute. Just by changing, yeah, expanding, contracting. So this is what we do. And we also, this was really a special moment. I always have to show this. Because, I tell you, my students came to me 5:15 in the laboratory, and they said, you have to come to the lab, we want to show you something. And they had put this thin layer, you see here a thin layer? This is a thin film of this liquid crystal material. Imagine you take away the glass plate from your smartphone, this is the soft material. And you see these waves, it's like waves on the sea. The motor is extremely small, there is a tiny amount, and it's only 1 billionth of a meter, you don't see it. But they put a glass rod of micrometer dimension swimming on top of it. So you have this surface with the soft material, and the glass rod is swimming on it. And then the only thing they did, when I came there in the lab, they switched on the light. And this is what happened. Due to the motor, the tiny amount, you see the whole surface is changing. The color is changing. The glass rod is spinning, and it's spinning clockwise. We can make it spinning clockwise, counterclockwise. This was an eureka moment in my career. In all these years, I could not speak for 5 minutes. I was completely out. Seeing with my naked eye, seeing this spinning, completely autonomous, without touching anything, all based on these molecular motors. So this was the starting point for our recent work. You see, we may put these motors now in liquid crystal polymers, as we call it. We can make muscles. You see, they can bend. You can also walk. We have a piece of plastic. When you switch on the lamp, it walks over the table. How many plastic bags do you have in your kitchen that walk over the table? Not many, eh? No, because they don't walk. We have now a piece of plastic that walks towards the light. If we switch on the lamp, it walks autonomously. So my students made a beautiful movie how this works, and I will show you how this operates. So we make a plastic, taking these motors with 2 small arms. Yeah, they are part of the polymer. The plastic, you know, is a polymer. You see here. These are these liquid crystal units. There are a few of these motors that contract and expand the material. This is how it works. They all cooperate to make it working, and then we have a muscle, and you can lift something up. You can lift up some object, and they can move back and forward. This is how we make completely artificial muscles from these tiny motors. And you see, we started with a motor, 1 billionth of a meter. We make these liquid crystal plastics, and then we make an artificial muscle that you can use to lift things. And this is a stepping stone to soft robotics in the future. I want to show you one other example, and that is about windmills. And you might appreciate that in Holland we like windmills. When Holland was still part of the Spanish Empire, yeah, we built these windmills 500 years ago, yeah, 16th, 17th century, and you can still see them today, yeah, and if you come in the right season, you see these beautiful flowers. Now we have the modern windmills like you have in Spain. But we built a nano windmill. Look, these are the legs. We put them on a gold particle. We have a stator, an axle. This is where it starts to spin. We have a rotor, but it spins around this green axle. And so we built a nano windmill park. This is what our ancestors did 500 years ago. We built them. This is 20 meters. This is 2 nanometers, 1 billion times smaller. They are all standing on the surface, and they spin under the influence of light. Not wind, but light. Okay? When the sun shines, they start to rotate, all in the same direction. Now, I often get the question, what are you guys doing at the university? Are you playing, yeah, like Lego with your students? Why do you want to build these tiny windmills? But now, look, We build now materials, and not only we, several groups in the world. Once you can make something moving, responsive, we make windows that clean themselves. We make solar panels that clean themselves. That's not such an issue in the north of Holland where it's often raining, but when you are in the south of Spain with all the dust, you have to clean them because otherwise the efficiency goes dramatically down. The car in the future, you will get coatings. You don't have to clean your car anymore. You don't have to wash your car anymore. Not now, but in 20 years from now, technology development. But then, self-repair materials. When I have a scratch in my finger, I don't have to do anything, just keep it clean, that it doesn't get infected. And when it's clean, it will repair itself. Your body will repair. When you have a scratch in your car, you are not so happy, because you have to go to the garage and get it repaired. In the future, they will repair themselves because they are dynamic, they have these dynamic functions. Under the influence of sunlight or whatever. We have in the lab now a piece of plastic that we can cut, and we put it together again, and 10 minutes later it's repaired. You can stretch it, it's fine. So this will be the kind of opportunities for the future. Self-cleaning, self-repair, windows that clean themselves, etc., etc. And of course, I don't even mention biomedical application, artificial muscles, but also biomedical applications for the medicine. So this is another great honor. You see, I was in Berlin, and you see here 3 legs and our motor. And apparently, this graffiti artist picked up our windmill, and he put it in his graffiti. Isn't it fantastic, that you are a chemist, you build molecules, and you do this kind of discovery, and an artist picks it up and puts it on the wall. I was amazed. Okay, then my final example, the nano car. It was mentioned by Professor Martin. A car powered by solar panels, You have seen those. The students, the engineers go to, I think, Australia, and then they have a contest, 3,000 kilometers through the desert. So I got a grant from the Dutch government, and I had to explain to the minister, what are you going to do with this money? So I discussed with my students, and my students said, can we build something like that, because then we can go to Australia. And I said, look guys, we are not engineers, we are molecular engineers. And they said, okay, we will build a nano car. So we built a 4-wheel drive. You see 4 of these motors, and we built a 4-wheeler. This is 2 meters, this is 2 nanometers, a billion times smaller. And we move it over the surface. So I told my students, if you build this nano car, you can go to Australia, to a conference or whatever, and I will pay. Now, a PhD in Holland is 4 years, and it took us 8 years to complete and to prove it. So the first generation students never made it, despite their hard work. I still feel sorry for them, but they never made it to Australia. But it took us 8 years to build it and to prove it. So here is the car, you see. And of course, it was not about a nano car. It was how you get rotation into translation, to move forward. That was the idea. So we built this 4-wheel nano car, and you see here it's moving. A single nano car moving over the surface. This is a single molecule, Okay? 8 years work. And of course, the nano world is a little bit different. I mean, than the macro world. If I move my arm, there are millions of these motors that make it possible that I can lift my arm, and they walk. It's not like the car in the street. So probably this is probably how it works. It steps, it walks, over the surface. This is the nano world. And if you don't believe me, I borrowed this movie from Harvard, and you see this is now exactly what happens in your body. You see, this is how you build the motorways in your body, in your cells. Now, at this moment, you see here these filaments, these are the highways. And when the car goes by, the traffic in your cell, it detaches and then it reforms. It's all dynamic. It's unbelievable, You have a motorway from here to Barcelona. When cars go by, it detaches and then it falls. And this is how it's transported in your cell. Can you imagine? This is how so maybe it's not so bad after all. So this is an electric car, This is our nano car, this tiny powder. This is typically what gammas do. So this is a modern electric car, macro scale. This is, ladies and gentlemen, 1 billion times 1 billion identical nano cars. I think our car manufacturing plant is not so bad after all, eh? So many identical cars. And oh yeah, there was also a Formula 1 race for nano cars. Look, this was in Toulouse, 2017. The first ever nano car race. Yeah? Tiny nano cars. 36-hour live race. So now the question to end with, will we have nano robots that go through your blood veins? You remember this, maybe this movie, The Fantastic Voyage? I don't know. But we make a nano submarine, yeah, based on carbon nanotubes. And I put this in especially for the professor here because he likes carbon materials, which are extremely important. This is not 2D, eh? It's 3D. And we put these enzymes there because we were discussing with the students, if you want to put a nano submarine in your body, how to propel it. And there's, of course, plenty of sugar in your body. So we thought, let's take sugar as a fuel. And yes, it moves. We can move it with sugar. If this works, does it work? Why doesn't it work? Huh? The fuel is sugar. You see here these nanotubes, they aggregate a little bit. Sorry for that. But let me see if I can move them. So this is these tiny spiders. They are moving simply because they have sugar as a fuel. And if there's no sugar water, they stop. And when I add sugar again, they move again. I don't touch it. It's all based on sugar. And these tiny machines convert the sugar and then they move. So, will we have nano robots in the future? Science or science fiction? I'm not sure. I only predict that in 50 years from now, the doctor, the surgeon in the hospital will inject a nano robot. I don't know how they look like, but they will do that. And they will go for a tumor or deliver a drug or maybe do a repair in your cells. But I'm a scientist. I'm not very good in prediction. So I would say the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And this is what we do together as scientists. So I want to finish in the art of building small. We start with Mother Nature. We build switches and motors. And we build smart drugs, responsive materials, molecular machines, soft robotics. This is the goals for the future. And there will be a lot of opportunities because we are at very early days. Think of the Wright brothers. So I couldn't have, you could think about, yeah, but what are the big challenges? Yes, what do we need is nanotechnology. Yes, we need new catalysts, you know. New principles to reduce CO2, to recycle our materials. I told you before, how to fly, how to feed 10 billion people. It's just of the few challenges where we scientists have to contribute and come with new original inventions. We cannot go on to do the same all the time. And in the labs will also change. We will have the lab of the future. There will be a lot of automation, artificial intelligence, robotics, etc. I have no time to go into details, but there is a lot of new developments that will help us to do this, you know. So the students will also be trained in these new technologies. And of course, talking about students, this is my most important slide. Inventing our future together with our young talents at the universities. Sharing a passion. That's so important. And so for all the young talents, follow your dreams, be confident, yeah? This is what I learned during my career. Discover your energy. What is your passion? And discover your limits. How high can you put the bar? Don't always take it too easy. Sometimes it's really nice to do something tough and difficult. And we all have experienced that. But most important message, follow your dreams. Yeah? And so, when I started as a young boy at this farm, in this remote area, where nobody went to the university, did I know that I would get a Nobel Prize? No, ladies and gentlemen. But then I got a call from a colleague from the University of Illinois in 2011. I remember, he called me late in the evening and he said, Ben, you were on American television. And I said, come, you're kidding. Why should I be on American television? A professor from chemistry department at the University of Groningen in the north of Holland. He said, yes, in The Simpsons, 2011. And you see, this was the week before the announcement of the Nobel Prize. That's always the last week of September. And The Simpsons made a prediction. You see, chemistry, Zaar, Mörner, Feringa, Sonneke, Girard. Mörner got the Nobel Prize in 2014, and I had to wait another 2 years. Can you imagine? The next morning I came to the lab, and my students had seen this on Twitter, and they said, Professor, you will get the Nobel Prize. I said, okay. Yes, predicted by The Simpsons. I said, look guys, if you as a scientist are on American television, in The Simpsons, this is maybe the highest honor you can get. So I got 2016 the call from Stockholm. I went there in December. You see, I just received the medal from the Queen. This is the King. This is the Crown Princess. It was absolutely fantastic, a fairy tale. And then we had a nice banquet for 1,200 people. Yes, it was gorgeous. It was like being in a movie, you know. It's such a great honor and distinction. But it reflects also to all my team of all the young stars over all these years and all the collaborators around the world. Yeah, and then what to do after such a Nobel Prize, I will finish, I promise you. I started a foundation and I go to schools. So every 6 weeks we go to elementary school and to high schools with a group of students, PhDs, etc. And we have a kind of discussion with the kids, and then we do experiments in the classroom. In the morning in the basic elementary school, and in the afternoon in the gymnasium. And I was there together with, I did this for 600 kids or so, and then they said to me, oh, we want to give him a present. So they said, what should we give him to thank him, you know? And they said, oh, he has already a gold medal. We cannot give him a medal anymore. Let's look in America, how they do that. This is Sir Fraser Stoddart, whose labs were in Chicago, Northwestern University. And look, reserved parking for Sir Fraser Stoddart, 2016 Nobel laureate in chemistry, permits FO1, FO2. So in front of the chemistry department, he has 2 big parking lots reserved for him. This is probably his limousine, yeah? So this is typically how they do that in a big country like America, American style. But then they said, yeah, now we have a problem because Ben never comes by car. I always bike every morning to the lab. So I have now, you see, in this biking shed in front of the building, there is this plaque, this size. Bicycle parking space reserved for Nobel laureate. I can put my bike there in this tiny spot. This is how we do it in a small country like Holland in Europe, you know. So this is the difference. So let me finish with my hero, Leonardo da Vinci. 500 years ago, he said, when nature finishes producing its own species, man begins with the help of nature to create an infinity of species. We are just at the beginning of this big adventure. Science has so much to discover. And for all the young people here in the audience, imagine the unimaginable. And with that, once again, thanks for the honor. I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Feringa. Thank you, Ben, for such a stimulating and encouraging lecture, particularly always focusing on young persons, young scientists, and also
for a lot of young stars in the audience.
Yeah.
Also on the front row, by the way. Sorry.
Well, yeah, young students over there, young people, even younger over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And well. Still we have time for some questions, please. Let's start with young people.
Oh.
Please go.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm sure that I would like to become part of your team just because of your energy.
I gave you a very tough problem, I tell you.
But I have many questions. But just what's the composition of your nano car? How do you make that rotation with light?
Yeah, you see, we have this rotor, this motor that rotates, eh? And so you have the wheels, and to construct 4 wheels so that it can move forward. And that is really important, that they have the right movement, okay? Mm-hmm. Because why did we fail after 4 years? And we took another 4 years, I tell you. I don't know if many people here, the senior people, have cars. And I don't know if you ever thought about it. If you see a car moving on the street, yeah, going forward, the wheels, the front wheels, they move clockwise, eh? Like this, okay? But when you are behind the steering wheel, one goes in this direction and one goes in this direction. Yeah, it's a symmetric situation. You need the wheels going in opposite direction. Then you can move forward. In the beginning, we had the wheels, all the wheels moving in the same direction. And you know what happened? The car was turning around. And then we knew that the basic fundamental stereochemistry was wrong. We need one right-handed, one left-handed, then it goes forward. That was the trick. Thank you for the question. Really important.
Thank you.
The external stimulus is light, but he don't like to confess that his car never won this international nano car race.
There are many experts in STM that compete, you know.
And let me tell you, the very last race was won by Spain, okay?
But we have Max Verstappen. You know, Formula One.
Hi, I was asking myself, how can you modulate the speed of your car?
That's
for
a very
example,
good question.
or your motor engine?
The question is, how can you change the speed, modulate the speed? You realize the photochemical step where you put in the energy is extremely fast, 1.3 picoseconds, you know. But the thermal step, the next step, there are 4 steps. The first step is extremely fast. The second step is a slow step. Because what happens is, these 2 halves have to move like this. And this barrier, we can tune. If you make it a little bit wider, it goes faster. So we can precisely tune what we call in chemistry the steric. Yeah? And we can also control the electronic properties, and that helps. That's how we do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That was inspiring. So 2 questions. One is it was about the speed.
Yes.
But you know, following on that, have you considered, or is there a way to use these nanorobots to fuel on ATP? That's one question.
Do we fuel ATP? That's a real good one, because now we want to use this energy that you put in there to make, for instance, make ATP or make some fuel or doing something where you use the energy. What we have done so far is motion, as I showed you, muscles, walking, these things. But we are also working on making chemical reactions, because you can imagine if you put things together, with this motor, you can make bonds that you otherwise cannot make. So we have used it indeed to connect things together. I had no time to discuss it. It's far away from the efficiency of ATP in your body, but indeed we energize bonds. We have also made springs. So we put a circle, 2 halves together, and then we wind it like a spring. Yeah, you can imagine, you rotate, you make a spring, and then we snap the bond. And we see how much energy you need to cleave a bond. And this is the kind of approaches that we follow, yes. So thanks for the question. We are working on that. We have some nice publications, but it's not the kind of ATP. I would love to do that, but still too difficult. But I think at the end we will do it, yeah. Because you can energize, You can put energy in chemical bonds, yes.
Great, thanks. But if I may,
Yeah?
another one?
Oh, sorry, I'm
No?
not the boss. He's the... Yeah, there is also questions in... There were also some questions in the back. Yeah, yeah, the youngest first. Yeah.
Thank you. My question is that can you make like nanorobots or nanocars with these super heavy elements?
Can I make nanorobots with super heavy elements? I don't know. We never tried that. Of course, we change elements in the robot, in these nano machines, because if you put different elements like chlorine or bromine or iodine, which are heavier, of course, you change the way the energy is taken from the light, yeah? So that has an effect on the energy that you need to make the rotation possible. So this is an important point. Photochemistry depends indeed on the nature of the atoms. And often with heavy atoms, you get different energy process, energy transfer, yeah? And we explore that, yes. So we have now used such a principle to make, recently we published a paper, we have now a motor that uses more than 80% of the light, yeah, to do the rotation, which is extremely efficient. It's much better than in your eye, yeah, what Mother Nature found. So we are very happy with that, but this is a very good question. How can you tune, you know, it's tough, it's very difficult. But yeah, it can be, this is the principles that's one of the principles to use. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess that with the super heavy elements, the cars should be super heavy as well.
I don't know. You know, when you are at the nano scale, what is the weight of a molecule, you know? You cannot compare it, you know? You don't think about gravity or so, eh? This is a different world, you know? It's about forces between molecules.
Okay, thank you. Last question. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
3 last questions.
Please, quick questions. Please go there.
Muchas gracias y enhorabuena.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. At the beginning, you've spoken about researcher, carpenter, you mentioned. And now that you're in Spain, the predecessor, Martínez Mojica, with a very beautiful research project of at macro level, has looked into the DNA of cribs. Shouldn't he have got the Nobel Prize?
Yeah, yeah.
However, even though he was among these 7 or
Yeah.
8 scientists
Yeah.
who went to the NASA in the US, he did not receive the award.
Yeah.
The question is, do you feel that he should have...
First of all, I'm not in the Nobel Committee or in any of these committees, so I cannot judge, yeah? You can nominate people if you get invited, but this is a this is a procedure of several years, you know, that there are committees, there are symposia, there are expert advisors, there are reports made. It's not so that they think, oh, this guy needs a Nobel Prize and they get a Nobel Prize overnight or so. This is a long procedure, you know, of several years. And I cannot judge this, you know. I know that Jennifer Doudna and Chapin-Jay, they were real pioneers in this field doing this for the first. But there are other names that were mentioned that were also active in this field. There's also a guy at Harvard. There's also a guy in Netherlands, in Wageningen University. But apparently nobody made the real connection to use it to as in the CRISPR-Cas case, to do the precise control of the DNA. So, but in this case, I cannot judge. I don't want to.
La traducción en breve de lo que ha dicho es que
The brief translation of this is that Professor Feringa is not on the committee, but don't worry, very soon there'll be a Spanish Nobel Prize.
Nazario, there was some question over there.
So about the future of scientific research, because I feel like certain countries, like Spain, for example, they invest really small amounts of money on scientific research. So I feel like, what's your opinion on this, like, flight of like the smart people, like the scientists that go to other countries? How do you feel like how the governments should invest the money on scientific investigation?
I don't know exactly the Spanish situation. I cannot, I'm not in politics and I don't want to judge, but I only can say that looking at the future, there are many challenges for us. Don't see it as problems, see it as challenges. Challenges how to make a sustainable world, how to deal with energy, are we going to fly in the future? How are we going to recycle our plastics and materials? How are we making better drugs and pharmaceuticals? So this needs a lot of fundamental science from many different disciplines, including the humanities, of course. Think about the behavior of people. How do we behave to consume? Can we continue to consume more and more and more? How are we dealing with society? So I think it is the duty of the academic world and our research institutes to work on these challenges and to come up with solutions for the future. Not for today maybe, but for 5 or 10 years. And most important here is, how are we going to train and to educate our young people? Because they will make our society in 10, 20 years. They will build our new industries. And so we should train them for the future. And I think a country and the European Union should invest sufficiently in basic science, because that's the basis. And then on top of that, you go to innovation and so. What is sufficient, you might ask, I don't know either, but I think you need a good level of fundamental investments in education and science, because if otherwise the teams will be too small, the universities, institutes don't have the right expertise. You need different expertises to do this work. So please don't forget, investment in science is investment in the future. And I know this foundation invests in science. We are very glad with that. Your government invests, the European Union, the ERC programs. I myself in the ERC Council, and we have to fight all the time to keep this level of science funding sufficient. So I can only advocate in general that we really have to have a strong basis in science. Please don't take away too much money, because you will not build your future. I hope that's clear for my message, Invest in your future, keep a strong science basis, and train your young people well. Yep. Oh.
Very much for another very inspirational lecture. You are not only Nobel Prize in chemistry, I think you're Nobel Prize in life in general. And actually, my question is not technical. You have talked about precision medicine, and I was listening very carefully, because Spain spends nowadays 2 billion euro in precision medicine, in a tool, in a project called PERTE, the PERTE of Salud de Vanguardia, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you think, I know these predictions are hard to do, especially about the future. This is what Niels Bohr said, right? But do you think the development on precision medicine will be affordable to everybody in the future, or only to those who can pay it will have access to this?
No. I cannot. I'm not in the medical field, so in the health field, there are many problems. I know that we also face this in our country. So I cannot make a general statement there, but I only say that if we come up with new technologies, new inventions, etc., they will help us, to heal people, to have a healthier life, to solve some of these key problems, in the health. Yes, of course. And they will become cheaper, because if you develop them, in the beginning they might be a bit expensive, but then it becomes cheaper and cheaper, You remember in the beginning when you bought these flat screens, the liquid crystal display screens. They were very expensive. Now everybody can afford them. Smartphones were really expensive. Now everybody has them. Electric cars get cheaper and cheaper all the time. I think once you develop useful technologies that can replace or can be real innovation in health, there's a big need, and it will become available for sure. Let me give you one example. We had all the COVID period. Yeah, we don't want to remind of it. But it was in the 80s that Katalin Karikó and Drew Weissman and so invented this microRNA. Nobody believed in it, eh? Yeah? And then they pursued, and then 5, 6 years ago, suddenly that allowed us, yeah, to make these vaccines. And during the COVID crisis, it was these fundamental discoveries that they improved, they make it cheap, and they make vaccines available for everyone. And that helped save the life of millions of people, maybe. So, yes, it might take some time, and in the beginning it looks expensive, but after some years, it will become available. And I think, honestly, my personal opinion, yeah, this is not a political statement, but a personal opinion, is that you should make it available for everyone, not only for people who can afford it. Come on, this is not our goal. Our goal is, yeah, to help for a better society, and this is what we should do.
Okay, yes, sorry, there is no question that we have to stop here. Sorry for that. But let me, because we were discussing on this, and for sure that mimicking Mother Nature is quite difficult, and to go to molecular machines, artificial molecular machines, is quite difficult as well, and we are at the very beginning of the venture. Yeah. Now the story is considering that the Nobel Prize in Physics and also in Chemistry has been given this month in October, yeah, and they have been strongly related with artificial intelligence. What is the obvious, yeah, question is, what yeah, can do yeah, artificial intelligence for helping to get... Yeah.
You saw my picture that the new lab of the future, you will have robotics, artificial intelligence, all these methods we will integrate in our research, yes? And artificial intelligence can be very powerful. Of course, people think about also danger of artificial intelligence, but on the other hand, it can help us to make more efficient research based on large data sets, yeah? What are the most efficient reactions, chemical reactions or experiments, physical experiments, biological experiments you can do? Because we are dealing often with very complex problems. Many parameters, eh? And then you select via artificial intelligence maybe the right experiments, and you can be more efficient. And you see this popping up everywhere. I think there will be great opportunities there, but very important that we have to be critical, because artificial intelligence doesn't solve all your problems. You have to be also critical about the output, you know, and how we are going to use it, etc. So yes, on the one side, there is tremendous opportunities with all these large data, complex problems. On the other hand, human creativity, ingenuity, yeah, in the talents of our young people that help us to be creative, to come with original solutions. I think that goes way beyond computers and artificial intelligence. So I'm also a strong believer in new technologies, but I'm even a more strong believer in the creativity of mankind, of young people, the talents, yes? And so we should explore that.
Thank you for the answer. Thank you.